following for you out of Tehran. NBC News is reporting that the nephew of an Iranian opposition leader is one of 4 protesters who was killed in clashes with police during a Muslim holiday. We're joined live by NBC producer Ali Arouzi in Tehran with the very latest. And Ali, what can you tell us? What happened there today?
That's right, Chris. It was a very violent day today, probably the most unrest we've seen since the elections in Iran. Thousands of protesters surged in the streets and they were beaten back by riot police who were using batons, tear gas and live ammunition. We had reports earlier today that 4 protesters were killed during the riots, although the police chief in Tehran said nobody had been shot and killed. The latest reports that are coming in now is that the leader of the opposition, Mir Hossein Mousavi, his nephew was shot in the heart in Tehran during the protest and was taken to a local Tehran hospital where Mir Hossein Mousavi is now making arrangements for his nephew. We've also heard reports that thousands of people have converged outside the hospital. So it's been a day of absolute pandemonium in Tehran.
All right. Thanks very much, Ali. I know you're going to continue to watch the situation as it develops for us from Tehran. But I want to bring in Richard Engel, NBC News chief foreign correspondent. And Richard, let's talk first about the genesis of all this. We know that during the elections, there were very bloody protests. This is the most serious we've seen since then. Is this a sign that the opposition is getting bolder?
The opposition has picked its moments very carefully. And today, and over the last several days, there's been a period of religious holiday in Iran, throughout the Shiite world. So there was an occasion for people to gather together to use the spirit of this religious holiday, which actually represents one of the Prophet Muhammad's martyred grandsons. And there's a tradition of this in Iran, using holidays, using spiritual days when this idea of martyrdom is on the forefront of people's minds, and to capitalize on that to continue their protests. It has been an incredibly difficult movement to keep organized and to keep energized because so many people have been arrested. People who have been speaking out have been disappearing in the night and arrested. There have been some mass show trials that people have been getting fairly serious sentences issued to them in these trials. So when there is an opportunity like today, the opposition movement is using it, and occasionally, as Ali is reporting, these protests have been turning violent.
Any indication, though, that they pose a more serious threat?
If this continues, then it could pose a serious threat to the regime. People in the intelligence community right now are watching it. They don't think that the regime is at risk of crumbling, that student leaders coming out onto the streets would necessarily bring down the regime. But what you're seeing is, as this movement continues and as people get arrested and influential people get arrested, you're seeing some of the old guard, the military establishment, the elite, also joining into this movement, and that is something that seriously has people in Iran worried and has the intelligence community in the U.S. watching very closely.
Yeah, does it sort of bring it up a notch, the fact that one of the people who was killed here is the nephew of one of these opposition leaders?
It brings it up a notch, not just for him, but it brings it up a notch every time you have a significant official who is part of this movement who's arrested or killed, because then often you'll alienate their families even more. It is a fairly small group of leaders in Iran, the people who are part of the military elite, the religious elite, the political elite, and that's really how the society is broken down. And if you alienate their families, then you could drive them into underground movements, and that is something that would be a significant risk to the regime.
What would you expect in terms of the State Department, the U.S. reaction to all this to be?
I think the State Department right now has been fairly cautious in embracing the protesters. The protesters are often labeled by their own government to be agents of the United States, agents of Great Britain. So if the U.S. is seeming to come out and be fomenting their movement, it could work against them. So I think we'll have a similar approach to what we've seen so far, which is quiet approval, probably some tacit support, but not many public statements.
Okay, Richard, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.